Hi friends, and welcome back. Last week we had a pretty big blizzard in South Jersey, and it was big enough to cause some power outages. Outages enough to make the power go out for a few days and wreak some havoc in my kitchen. After the storm passed and the lights came back on, Mark had the not so fun job of cleaning out our refrigerator. And in the process, something kind of important got thrown away. My sourdough starter that we affectionately call the monster. The monster because the warmest room in our house is in Marky's room. So sometimes I would feed the starter before bed, put him to bed and the starter up there, and one night in the middle of the night he got up, came into my room and said, "Mom, we have to go downstairs. There's a monster in my room." I didn't think anything of it. We came down and slept on the couch, no big deal. The next morning I went into his room and the sourdough starter had bubbled up and was running down his dresser. So I'm sure he heard the hissing and the bubbling of the starter and thought there was a monster in his room. Therefore, we affectionately called my sourdough starter the monster. So if you've ever cared for a sourdough starter before, you know it's kind of like having a pet. You feed it, you bake with it, you take care of it, and sometimes it takes over your fridge. Well, today we're creating the Monster 2.0. So I thought I would take you along in the process of making a new sourdough starter. I thought it would be fun because if you've ever baked with sourdough, you know that making the starter is kind of part of the process. So let's get started. So grab a cup of tea, come along with me, and let's bring the monster back. All right, so step one is gathering your supplies. I'm gonna use about a half a cup of unbleached flour. Wheat flour also works, as long as it's unbleached. Everything has to be unbleached. And about a fourth of a cup of lukewarm water. If you want to do grams, this came out to about 70 grams and this came out to about 55 grams, okay? A wooden spoon to use the end for mixing. I like using a wide mouth glass jar so that it's just easier to scrape the edges. And you can see through the whole thing so you can see when it starts to bubble. And for a lid, I use a paper towel. You could use a dish towel. You could lean a lid loosely, but I use a paper towel and a rubber band. And I have an extra rubber band that I put around the jar so I could see how it rises. So let's get started. I'm gonna start with the water and then pour in gently the flour without trying to make a mess. Messes are my middle name. And then I start stirring. And you want to stir until everything is combined. It's going to look like a thick pancake batter. Make sure there's no dry spots. Of flour left. And I just scrape down the sides so it's nice and clean. The cleaner you keep everything, the less bacteria, like unwanted bacteria, forms. That looks good. Okay. Now I'm gonna mark the level that it's at with a rubber band so we can see how it grows. And I'm gonna grab a paper towel. cover it. And now we let it set. We're gonna place it in a warm, not hot area. A kitchen counter works, near a warm oven, on top of your refrigerator, as long as it's clean. The ideal temperature is 70 to 75. And this is day 1. Come back tomorrow for day 2. Right now, it looks like just flour and water in a jar, but over the next few days, we're gonna start to see bubbling and it come to life. So tomorrow we'll feed it for the first time and hopefully start seeing a little sign of our starter starting to warm up. Okay, so there's day 1. I'll see you tomorrow for day 2, and follow along. Have a great day.